my book report.
Okay, now we're gonna do book reports. We just did the story structure analysis. Sorry, my back hurts pretty bad. I don't like to be old. All right, so Tessa did Wrecking Ball for her book report, which makes sense. She dialogued that one and the last one, and that's Diary of a Wimpy Kid Wrecking Ball. So her summary is, and this is what it looks like. This is my 7-year-old, well, so it's all backwards on there, but you can see it's not very long. My 7-year-old's book report. It says the summary, an unexpected money changes Greg's, unexpected money?
Unexpected allowance. I cannot.
Oh, okay. Changes Greg's house, and a big change happens weirdly. Okay, so we certainly have some room to improve on the summary, right? I would have put in something like, what actually does happen?
So
The grandmother dies, and then they get a
You get an
huge amount of
inheritance.
money.
Okay,
Yes.
so what happens is his family inherits quite a bit of money. And my understanding is that in preparing to sell their current home so they can buy this new fabulous home, they encounter a lot of problems with their current home and end up having to use the money to repair their current home instead. Okay.
Well, they're trying to
George,
expand the kitchen.
That's okay.
And then
All
that
right,
stuff
so-
happens, and then they try and sell the house.
Okay, so but the summary is basically, that's great, Eli. So what you would want to do in the summary is kind of give me the relevant information, because I think what's happening is that you're sort of assuming when you write these that I already know and have read the book. In some instances, so you want to make sure when you're writing the summary, you think, let's say you know nothing about the story, what would be the important pieces of the story? Does that make sense? Okay. So story value, he feels crammed in and he feels like he needs a bigger house. So the story value probably is that he feels like if he has not enough room because his room is full of junk, the best solution is to get more space, right? And I think he probably finds over the course of the book that maybe one of the good solutions is thinning out what you have and making room for what's important instead of just getting a bigger place. Does that sound right? There's not a lot of insight in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. We're kind of grasping at straws here, but I would assume. I haven't read it. Does that sound right? Okay. And then Tessa's thoughts. It was a great story. Not such a good structure. 3 out of 5 stars. So that was good. So I am assuming that Diary of a Wimpy Kid doesn't rely heavily on story structure and is more of a sequence of jokes. So that's good. You notice that.
I forgot to do my feelings about it.
Well, we're about to find out. So I would give you on that a B. I think that you could do, I think maybe we were a little rushed because we had vacation last week. I think you could do a little bit more thorough summary. I thought you did fine on the story value. And I thought that you were probably right about the thoughts, but I would have liked to see a little bit more sound structure at the beginning when you're explaining the summary. Does that sound okay? Okay. Book report for Emmy. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, double down. Well, this is a different one than you did for your other thing. You guys have been reading a lot of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Okay, so what I want to make note of is that even though the book does not have excellent story structure, probably, I haven't read them, so I don't know for sure. What's happening, though, is that they're keeping things moving. Something is pulling you through. So obviously the book is full of gaps in humor, right?
Definitely.
It's enough to keep you rolling. So the story structure that I've been teaching you guys is concepts that you want to try and follow, but they don't always have to be adhered to for your story to work. You just need to understand them before you break the rules. Because if you break the rules willy-nilly, you don't know why you're breaking them, you're not going to do it right. And your pacing will lag and you'll have problems, okay? All right. So let's talk about the summary here. It says, Greg's mother thinks Greg's brain is turning to mush, and Greg needs to make a movie. Okay, that feels like a disconnect. Oh, okay. Greg decides the way to fix ameliorate his mother's concerns is to make a movie. So maybe he could win her over and then she'd let him play more video games. Okay. These books. I'm about to ban these for book report books. Okay. So that's the summary. And then the story value, Greg feels like he needs to make his mother let him play video games. All right. Let's dig a little deeper on what the story value might be. The story value here is Greg believes that video games are completely acceptable and that his mother's wrong, right? Because no one really wants their brain to turn to mush. So he feels like instead of changing what he does, he needs to just change his mother's mind, right? Yeah. Over the course of the book, does he change his mother's mind, or does he realize that maybe doing nothing but video games is not that great?
He doesn't.
Neither.
Okay. Oh, Atlanta. All right. Searching for story value in these might be somewhat difficult. I mean, why don't you tell me your opinion of the book?
My mom doesn't like screens.
I liked
Oh, no, make them.
I liked it.
You enjoyed it. You had no trouble reading the whole thing. Couldn't put it down. No one can see your face, so they're just hearing blank airtime. So, did you enjoy the book? Talk loudly. You enjoyed the book?
I did.
And did you think it was fabulously written? It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, for its purpose, right? Did you think the structure was good? The important thing about structure is that it keeps you reading. Did it keep you reading?
Oh yeah.
I bet if I read these books, I would be able to tell you exactly what the inciting incidents, hooks, plot points, I bet they're all in there. I just bet that they are. I understand. I'm just telling you, I think that probably they're buried under a bunch of wonky jokes, so they're harder to find. Okay, I wish I had read those. We'll go over some that I have read. All right, so let's, Emmy, since you forgot to do your analysis of the book, I'm going to have to give you a B-. Okay, you got to make sure you get all 3 things in there. Okay, but that's not something to cry about, right? But there's always room for improvement, okay? Right? That's why we're going over these, trying to give you a way to improve so that when you're reading, you're thinking and you're learning as you read, right? Is that our goal? Okay, here's Dora's. So Dora did The Goblet of Fire.
You can read mine.
Her summary is, Harry goes, which one is The Goblet of Fire?
That's the 4th one. It's the one that you said is your
the
favorite.
one you
He
like
ends up
best.
getting entered in the Triwizard Tournament.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So the one that is supposed to be for older kids. Harry goes to the Quidditch World Cup, but it's crashed by Death Eaters. Then he goes to Hogwarts, and there's a Goblet of Fire. It will draw 1 name from each house, but there's an age requirement that makes Harry, Ron, and Hermione not allowed. The goblet draws Cedric Diggory, Crumb, and Fleur. But then Harry has been drawn too, so there's some kind of fluke. So after fighting with all the headmasters, he has to compete. He gets a tip about dragons for the first task, so he works on that Oxio spell or whatever. And then he pulls so that he can do what?
So that he can get the firebolt to come to him.
So he can get his broom. Yeah,
Okay, it's
Oxio or
fireball.
whatever.
Okay,
Yeah, and then he pulls out of the first task in first place because he had his broom. He helps Cedric with the dragon, so Cedric helps him with the second task, which is merpeople, and he uses gillyweed or jillyweed or however you say it. But since there are people down there, even though he gets there first, he waits until the last second to retrieve the last task is coming up. So basically he does something noble because he is not a brilliant Slytherin, but instead a goofy Gryffindor, right? Okay, so manages to turn a win into a loss. Good job, Gryffindor. So then the last task is coming up. When the other champions get showed the maze, Krum pulls Harry aside because he's afraid Hermione likes Harry. But Barty Crouch, who has been missed, turns up mumbling.
Missing for a couple of weeks.
Okay, weird stuff. And Harry goes to get Dumbledore. And when he gets back, Krum is knocked out and Mr. Crouch is gone. Harry thinks about the night while studying spells for the maze. It's time for the maze, and Fleur is screaming and then gone. After a while, he finds Krum attacking Cedric. They fight. Cedric and Harry both place hands on the cup and get transported to some weird place. Cedric gets killed. Voldemort is reborn, and they have a duel. When their spells meet, he sees his parents and some other dead people floating out of it. It's pretty weird. Then with a near escape, he gets away, but he is dragged away by Mad-Eye Moody, who is acting crazy, like always. But Dumbledore comes, ties Moody up, and gives him Truth Potion, and we find out that is it really Moody? No.
It's
And makes the Polyjuice Potion wear off. It's Barty Crouch Jr., and he tells them all Voldemort's plan. Harry tells Dumbledore everything that's happened, and soon after he goes home to the lovely Dursleys. So number 2, Dora decided to describe the gap. So the gap she shared was when Harry's name gets pulled out of the goblet, because no one was expecting Harry, who was too young, to be pulled out of the goblet. She said she didn't expect it at all. I figured Voldemort would use the Triwizard Tournament as a cover, but not picking Harry and making him compete. Number 3, her thoughts. I thought J.K. Rowling did an amazing book, but I also think she should have made them more hangout time, because in this book they don't really have a lot. Okay, so that was good. It was thorough, and I could tell that you read it and that you paid attention to it. I thought you did a nice job, so I'd give you an A. All right, One and Only Ivan, that's Eli's. So this is a book that is middle grade. It might be a little below Eli's pay grade, but I gave my kids a reward. They earn mom bucks if they read. So I think Eli decided to pick it up and read it because he wanted to earn a reward for reading a younger book. But this was his summary. So his summary is The One and Only Ivan is a Newbery Award-winning book written by Catherine Applegate. This book is about a gorilla that lives in a cage in a mall. Day after day, he sits in boredom with only his elephant friend Stella and his dog friend Bob. To cope with his boredom, he loves to draw. Banana, ball, even Bob. It's the same thing day after day, even for the reader. Until one day, a new, smaller elephant arrives named, I don't know his name. And something is full of, boy, is she full of questions. Question and then slowly make Ivan remember everything. Okay, here's his story value. The one and only Ivan has a very interesting setup with every chapter consisting of a few simple sentences to simulate the thoughts of a gorilla. This gives the unique feel that Ivan is telling you the
story as it happens.
Something story as it happens. This really adds to the story as you feel like you're a character staring in Ivan's cage as he goes through his adventure. Now, this is his thoughts. He says, now is the time for me to share my thoughts, and wow, this book is horrible. The writing is sloppy and very little detail is given, seeing as these are the thoughts of an ape. The plot is very, very simple with very little tension, plot twists, etc. A 6-year-old could have dreamt up this plot and probably written the dang book too. Also, this book gives off the physical impression of being 300 plus pages, while in reality it's 30 words a page. All of these words are boring. Catherine Applegate still managed to win the Newbery Novel of the Year award in 2013. I guess 2013 was the 2020 for books. Oh my gosh. All things taken into consideration, this is a very fun read for little kids 5 and under. 1 out of 5 stars. Oh man. All right. I'll still give you an A because here's what you'll learn. Okay, what you guys are going to learn is that not every book is for every person. There have been quite a few books, even in the genre that I write in, where people love it. They give it rave reviews. People tell me over and over. I've had dozens of people tell me that this certain particular book series is amazing. And I've tried to read it over and over and over, and I don't like it. So that is what it is. You won't like every book, and that's fine.